All right, so I want to provide everyone with a case update as usual, as well as get into some other stuff. So getting right into it here, Canada's up to 25,663 cases with 780 dead. Um, the death rate continues to go up, but again, the problem with this stuff is that the numbers can be a little bit misleading, and that you have people who are from things that dying from things with coronavirus or with the virus. So again, a lot of these places, if someone dies with the virus, then it's ruled a virus. You also have people that more than likely would die. Some of these older people that would more than likely be dying very soon, regardless. And yet, that's counted when again. So there's people that are counted in the case totals that are asymptomatic or have very, very moderate symptoms. There's a lot of people that have it that haven't been tested. So again, computing all this kind of stuff is a little fuzzy. Like I say, because there's people that have it, didn't even get tested. There's people that got tested, got tested, but only have very mild symptoms. So again, you got to take all that stuff with a grain of salt. Alberta had 81 new cases yesterday, which yesterday they had 82. So we're starting to, we're starting to be pretty steady. I mean, if we're not going up above 100 within the next week, I don't see any reason why we can't open things back up in May. To me, it makes absolutely no sense. And I keep reiterating, and I think it's becoming more and more obvious, we need to get the economy back open within the next month, I would say. I mean, my goal would be first week of May, second week of May, third week of May at like the latest. But it seems like the government is intent on keeping this going as long as they possibly can. And I'm not sure exactly why, because they can't keep this going for that long. But my guess is that they want to keep it going for as long as they possibly can, because they want to experiment with, how can we what rights can we get away with taking away? Like I say, what corrupt and shady things basically can we get away with doing? That's basically the experiment that's going on. And I think the other big experiment is how obvious can the solution be, and have people still avoid it? Like in other words, how much can we ignore that it's blatantly obvious that we should be opening the economy back up rather soon, and yet have people not be outraged that we're not doing it, basically. Like I think that's the big experience, the experiment that's going on as well. And like I say, a lot of it is it's speculation to some degree, but I think it's pretty safe to say that I don't think how anybody can argue realistically that we can't open the economy back up at some point in May. I don't see how anybody can do that, because people are already starting to get content. I mean, in Alberta at least, especially in Edmonton, it's still pretty cold. Now it's supposed to warm up by the end of the week and stay warm, but once it's consistently warm out every day, I think people are going to get too content, and it's going to be kind of pointless anyways. Like, what's the point in doing this whole social distancing if people aren't really doing it anyway? Like I said, I think people are going to get too content at some point. They're going to get too bored. I think we're still at the early. I mean, personally, I'm really bored. I wish I could get out and do more, but I'm kind of an outlier in that area. I think people are going to get too bored and too restless, and things are going to get worse. But on the other hand, I think the government knows that, and they can use that as, hey, this whole thing is still really bad, and they'll use that as an excuse to clamp down even further. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, because I don't think that the government is stupid. Like a lot of people like to, I think a lot of it's jokingly, but they think that, oh well, Justin Trudeau, doesn't have a brain, and all this kind of, dumber than a fence post, that kind of stuff. And I don't think that they're stupid. I think that they're just incredibly, power hungry, um, corrupt, selfish, all that kind of stuff, and they want to use it as an excuse. So basically, this is from Tom Quiggin, and he goes on to say, in case you have not figured it out, you do not have any rights. You only have a series of privileges which the government can advance or withdraw at their freedom and will. And or at their whim and will. And this is something that bothers me so much and so much is that we don't have rights. I mean, we technically we have rights on paper, but they're largely not enforced. And rights on paper don't mean anything when they're not enforced. So I cannot stand when I point out to people in Canada about how we really don't have free speech. We don't have the freedom to assemble, and we don't have any gun rights. We barely have a whatever, equivalent to a Fourth Amendment would be, and yet we have these people, oh, you have it, you look up the Bill of Rights. Well, it doesn't mean jack all if it's not enforced. um, like I say, there's no such thing as the Second Amendment in the States. If they ban guns, yeah, it exists on paper, but it doesn't matter if they ban them all. So that's what we have in Canada too. And on one hand, we have these people, mostly people on the left, but a lot of people on the right, but I would say the overwhelming majority of the people on the left that tacitly support this kind of stuff. Now, it shocks many people. Why would they support this kind of stuff? Because it inevitably leads to authoritarian, totalitarian governments. Now, the reason why they believe it is number one, it agrees with a lot of their political ideology. It goes along with it. They want to have authoritarian, draconian systems in a lot of ways, and they, like I say, they agree with a lot of it. Like I say, on one hand, they don't understand. Like I say, fundamentally, people on the left tend to not understand the long run. Basically, they see free healthcare as something. Oh, we need to do it because we need to help the poor, But they're too ignorant to realize that we can't afford it. In the long run, the entire system is gonna collapse, and there's gonna be, like I say, we can have a little bit of suffering in the here and now, or we can have a ton of suffering down the road. And people on the left just don't seem to understand that. It's just a all in the here and now. Who cares about the long run, basically? And getting back to why they agree with that kind of stuff. Well, the leftist ideology is once we get the power, the system will be fine. Like I say, it's a typical socialist utopia situation. That the reason why they agree with it is that they think that, oh well, once we get power, it'll be fine, which it never does. It never does. It always leads to communism or authoritarian, totalitarian governments, and the cycle continues. So anyway, I just wanted to bring this up because I really can't stand when people still like to pretend that we have rights. Yeah, like I say, they'll point, oh, are we better than, some of these, countries in Africa and the Middle East and all that kind of stuff? Well, yeah, but partially because we've fought for that kind of stuff and we've recognized how important free speech and all that gun rights, the right to undo search and seizure, all that kind of stuff is. Those kind of places don't they don't understand that kind of stuff. You know, the government, the government spent the United States government has spent trillions of dollars trying to implement quote unquote democracies in some of these countries. Has it worked? No, because they don't want democracy. So I think that whole, oh well, you should be grateful. Other countries are, very bad in the way they're ran. Like I say, yeah, I understand that, but on the other hand, they don't want that. And if our country was just if these lefties got their way, we'd be the same as them. We'd be the same as them in within a generation or two. So I think that's a pretty stupid argument, personally. Um, so basically, this is basically the news of the day from yesterday. I mean, that and Justin Trudeau, but I'll be getting to that soon. So basically, Trump does these briefings every day at the White House. I think Justin Trudeau does something somewhat similar, but not from his house. Um, anyway, so yesterday he played a montage of all these media outlets downplaying and saying things that, looking back, were absolutely, astoundingly wrong. And it's very telling because, like I say, a lot of these people like to pretend that the mainstream media is still objective in some way. Some of it was Fox too. So don't give me this. Oh, he's biased. He's biased. He played some about Fox but although Fox had one of their guys that was one of the guys earliest to the punch at this, that was completely right about lockdowns and how serious this was going to get. So I mean, you gotta give Fox some credit for that, but again, just another reason why I like Trump. Now, there's tons of reasons why I hate Trump. Like a lot of things that go completely 100% against what I believe in. But one of the things I'm looking for in a leader is someone who calls out the lying, manipulative, BS mainstream media. Like that is one of the most important important things going on in society, and I love that Trump calls them out all the time. That's so great, like so great. So again, I wanted to point that out because it's very good. Um, I made a video about this recently, and sure enough, like I say, someone commented it too. I kind of assumed it would be the case as well. And like clockwork, Tom Quiggin goes on to say, evidence from Toronto is already showing that illegal SIN numbers are being used to collect COVID-19 curb benefits. Great, Canadians are forced out of work, and illegals are collecting more money long after Government of Canada knew that we have 1 million illegals here. Now, again, is the government, it depends. This is one of these situations where the government is incredibly incompetent, like astounding levels of incompetent, or they're going along with it. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious they're going along with it. I mean, you have all these leftists. Come on, let's just be honest. They love illegal immigration. They want endless amounts of it because in their belief system, well, you can always just print more money. You know, all our solutions in society can be solved by just printing more money, according to these people. Now, stop making the whole it's the moral and ethical right thing to do. No, it's you think that endless amounts of money can just be printed to support this kind of stuff, and people who disagree with you don't. That's where the divide is. The divide isn't racism and compassion. No, let's just be honest about the situation. You're not fooling. I mean, you're fooling most people, but you're not fooling me, and you're not fooling most people. Namely Tom Quiggin. Um, so again, let's just be honest about this kind of stuff. And again, how can the government of Canada, again, I can't stand how they claim to, we're a rule of law country, but yet they support this kind of stuff. And not only that, you know how many people are suffering right now? Like, why the government is clearly aware of this, clearly aware that there's, you know, I mean, he said thousands. I mean, there probably is thousands of illegal SIN numbers, a lot of them probably collecting this money. Why isn't there a group of people, a task force that's investigating this kind of stuff, shutting it down and arresting people for doing this kind of stuff? Why is that not going on? Again, this is something that we should be able to agree on. People on the left, people on the right, people in the middle, no matter where you are, we should be able to agree on this kind of stuff. But the fact that we can't, I mean, this is why there's such a big political divide, because there's these issues that should be so nonpartisan, like the most nonpartisan issues in the history of nonpartisan issues. But because the reason, the left will support this kind of stuff because the only way that they can continue to get elected and continue to have power is to import massive amounts of illegals, illegal immigrants or immigrants, whatever you want to. Technically, they can make them legal by signing a piece of paper that makes them illegal or legal, but that doesn't make them legal. Just because you bring millions and millions of people in. In my eyes, the only thing that makes you a legitimate immigrant, and I don't see how anybody can disagree with this if you understand math and economics, in the slightest degree, is that there's a surplus of jobs and we need people to come in. That is the only reason we should have immigration. The only reason. And the only reason we should have had it in the recent past. Now, don't give me this whole, oh, well, everybody was an immigrant at some point. Well, that number one, that's if that's the case, then the land isn't the natives, how you claim, because everybody was an immigrant. Therefore, you couldn't have stole it because technically, though, there was something there here before the natives. Maybe. And the other thing too is that the natives routinely stole land from each other, and the only group of people in society that they claim to care so much about stealing land is the white Europeans. They don't care that Muslims tried to get into Europe for almost 1,000 years. Literally, they fought wars for that long to try and steal land from Europe. Land was stolen throughout history. Get over it. Um, but basically, I wanted to bring that up because it's very important. And like I say, I predicted that like clockwork. It happens. And the last thing here, so Justin Trudeau went to his cottage, or I don't know if he owns the house. I assume so. Not like he doesn't have enough money. Um, he went to go to the lake house with his family to spend Easter. Which, to put it into perspective, I think Justin Trudeau should have been able to go to spend time with his family at Easter. I don't care about that. But the difference is that the government told us that the average person shouldn't have been able to do it. Therefore, Justin Trudeau shouldn't have been able to do it. Now, Anthony Furey goes on to point out, he says, to clear up any confusion, not only did Trudeau's Harrington Lake visit clearly break the spirit of the rules around cottage visits, it actually broke the law. Quebec's newly passed ministerial order 2020-13 banning access to the, I don't know how you pronounce that, Uatis, again, I'm probably botching that really bad, region to be precise. So again, Trudeau is allowed to break the law, but yet we're not allowed to go visit or I mean, if we're going to do it, we have to risk getting fines. How is that in any way, shape, or form fair? Now, again, like as usual, the lefties will defend this kind of stuff because they believe in different sets of rules, not only two different sets of rules, they believe in multiple sets of rules for different sets of people depending on who you are in society. If you're the government, that literally nothing is illegal. If you're the government, you can print money. If you're the average citizen, you print money, you're going to jail. If you're the government, you can steal from people. If you're the average person, you steal from people, you're going to jail. In this case, if you were the average person and you went to this region from outside the region, you could get arrested or a hefty fine. Justin Trudeau does it, it's perfectly fine. Now, I don't want to live in a society that's ran like that. And for anybody who wants to live in a society like that, what you're saying is that you want a society that's fundamentally going to become that's corrupt, that's going to become inevitably like clockwork. And mark my words, it will become totalitarian at some point. It'll become authoritarian. It may take a while. Again, it usually does take a while because then they can pass it off as not actually, being as bad as what it is. So that's usually why they do that. But anyway, I wanted to bring that up because, like, again, as usual, typical on the left, these lefties, rules for thee, but not for me. And it's something I cannot stand. Again, I'd really like to have someone come up with a decent argument to why we should run society like this. Like, I'd really like to. So anyway, I'm gonna leave the video there. If you liked it, make sure to like and subscribe. I do have my PayPal and email links in the description. I appreciate any donations, but at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe. And like I always mention at the end too, check out my BitChute channel. YouTube's gonna ban me at some point or shadow ban me, so check out my BitChute channel.